The Titan Civil War is inevitable. All new evidence. I mean, the last time the Titans went at it was when Sargeras defeated all of his siblings, right, in an all-out fight. And, I mean, I guess that's a civil war, but it was technically, was it 4v1 or 5v1? Sargeras took him out pretty quickly and easily, it looks like. So, could it happen again? Could it happen against Aman'Thul instead? Maybe Sargeras finally convinces his siblings that he was right all along, and that Aman'Thul is actually the big bad. Who knows? The Last Titan is going to see something obviously happen to the Titans. They are in the story title. Let's see what Belular's laid out for us in terms of the all-new evidence for what is going to happen with the Titans.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about the one thing that's actually exciting me the most, and that's the return to Northrend. Northrend is the setting of The Last Titan, which is the WoW expansion after midnight, and it's going to be a big showdown with our once gods, the Titans. It seems kind of wild. And historically, the last time Northrend was current content, World of Warcraft hit its peak subscriber count of over 12 million.
Oh, man. Those were good times. I still remember going to Northrend through the Howling Fjord or whatever, and the freaking music kick it off. You know, that violent dee, 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 dee. It just sounds exactly like what I'm imitating right now. But it gives me chills till this day. That was probably the single greatest entrance into a new continent that we've seen in the game. Unbelievable, man. It's such a well-made expansion from the start. And of course, it brought Death Knights. Yeah, not even close.
Wonder why Blizzard wants to assault our nostalgia with this expansion. And to do that, they confirmed that Northrend will be revamped and will be expanded. So not just a reskin of the thing you know, actually a proper expansion, a proper remake. And the good news today is that by now we know much of what that expansion will look like. So my mission today is to take you through the colossal A-plot that will see us thrown into the heart of a civil war between the Titans, their keepers, and every one of their servants on Azeroth. This stuff is truly massive, so let's get stuck in.
Let's do it.
We know the Titans, last seen during Legion, will return. Azeroth is basically the key to their plans of ordering the entire universe.
Right.
She's powerful enough to fend off any threat, so for the Titans, she is absolutely everything. And for this expansion, she is the inciting incident, and that's because of this guy, Iridikron. Long story short, the Titans aren't bad per se, they're not evil per se, but if your goals get in the way of their goals, they'll obviously end you.
Yeah, they're not bad. They just have an innate desire to order everything. To order everything to the max. And something walking around on two little legs, made of flesh with a free will, is not very orderly, right? You can't predict what it's going to do next. Which is why, the Titans have allowed us to exist for now. They could have wiped us out a long time ago. But they've allowed us to exist only because we've seemingly kind of protected Azeroth from threats that have arisen over time. The Titans could try to protect Azeroth from threats, but we've seen what happened when Aman'Thul's tried to get rid of old gods, right? He almost destroyed the entirety of Azeroth. So instead, they let us kind of act as like the immune system of Azeroth, kind of wiping the surface clean constantly of any threats that might arise. That works until finally their plan for Azeroth it's time to initiate it, right? And these little fleshy beings walking around, or I guess now you got Earth and some of these guys are made of stone, with free will and the ability to do whatever they want, it doesn't really work out with their plan for order. So, we will become their enemy very, very soon because we'll no longer fit into their grand plan for things.
Get in the way of their goals.
Is it evil?
Obviously end
no.
You. A little bit like
us
destroying an anthill to build a motorway. That's actually why Algalon tried to wipe Azeroth clean last time we were in Northrend. That's literally what Algalon would have done if we lost that fight. Now, the upshot of all of that basically was control. Control of everything by the Titans to serve their plans. As an example, the elements, right? The elementals were bound, histories were fiddled with, and many threats were eliminated. And eventually, many dragons ended up allying with the Titans' earthly servants, who we call the Keepers. Magical tomfoolery had dragons go from looking like this, their original form, to looking like this.
Right.
And our guy Iridikron was absolutely not a fan. And that's why, after he failed in a rebellion and after a 20,000-year stint in jail, he is now hell-bent on ending the Titans. And he actually told us exactly how he plans to do it.
Iridikron is Well, easily the best villain to come out of WoW in a decent while. I mean, we had, I think Sire Denathrius is another great one who came out of Shadowlands. But Eridicron was an interesting character. He was one of the few endgame bosses who acknowledged the fact that the players are extremely powerful. Right, he warned Farak throughout the expansion. I thought that was really cool. He basically played his cards in a way where we never got a chance to fully take him on face first unless he was allowing it to happen, because he acknowledged the fact that he could be destroyed by the players. He knows what the players are capable of, what they've done in the past, and he chose to basically avoid us in favor of completing his plan or his end goal, which is to bring the Titans down to Azeroth and destroy them. Now, how he plans to destroy them if he couldn't defeat the players themselves, I have no idea, but he's probably going to be aligned with us in some way. We'll see how it all plays out, but I actually liked Eridicron a lot out of Dragonflight.
With this, the Harbinger will pry it from their
His Mog is good.
And when the Titans come to reclaim their prize, I will be waiting.
Yeah, with that vocal performance, it's fair to say that he's kinda pissed. Now, the deal that he struck with Xal'atath led us into the War Within expansion, and it very much seems that Xal'atath's void antics are going to lead us into the Midnight expansion. That's an expansion focused around the clash of light and void, all around the Sunwell.
The clash of light and void is important to Eridicron because he clearly plans to use the power of the void in some way to destroy the Titans. And the way you know that is because when he talked to Vaginoth or Viranoth, whatever you want to call her, his sister, she told him, you align yourself with the void, you trust the void, and his response to her was, I trust its hunger. So he clearly has a plan to use the void in some way to defeat the Titans. How he's going to do that, again, we don't know his master plan yet, but we know that he is planning to use the void in some way.
There's a major part.
Yeah, Vaginoth, there's Furkak, there's plenty of, little symbolisms there going down.
Of the Burning Crusade expansion and Warcraft lore as a whole. And insofar as Midnight's details go, obviously only Blizzard staff will know exactly what's going to happen. But what we do know is that Eridicron is counting on the events of Midnight to force the Titans to return. That's what will lead us to the Last Titan and to Northrend. So big picture, if we're talking about bosses that'll end raid tiers, I'd say Eridicron and Aman'Thul are probably guys we'll fight in the Last Titan. Azeroth will almost certainly wake up as well, but that's actually not the whole story. I'll get to Nerubians, Death Knights, and Ice Crowns soon. This is actually a whole series of videos, but first, there's a whole other side to this conflict, the Civil War. What's going to happen between the Titan forces.
Okay,
we aren't just speculating about the big picture, we really do know. All of that business over a decade ago with Algalon was rather sus, but now Blizzard have properly established not only why Algalon acted like that, they've even established internal conflict at every level of Titan activity, from the lowest Earthen through to the actual Titans themselves. I'll start at the lowest level. So part one, let's talk about the Earthen. Their histories were
I will say, one thing that the Earthen have taught us specifically is that just about anybody and anything can be influenced by Azeroth. You can call it influence, you can call it corruption, whatever. But the closer you get to the core of Azeroth, the easier it is for her to influence you. Now, we've seen the Thragar of the Earthen, right? These Earthen that are completely clad in diamond. That's what they become when they get so close to Azeroth that she is able to fully influence them and basically turn them to her side. Now, the other outlying theory there is that that's what happened to the old gods. Because we're getting the whole story of how Xal'atath was, the old gods turned on Xal'atath and all that stuff goes down in 11.1.7. And the theory that I have, and that I think a lot of people now have, is that the old gods were burrowed deep into the planet, and because they had gotten close enough to the core, Azeroth herself influenced them to basically turn Xal'atath away and save herself from the impending doom that would have been Demancius' arrival and destruction of the planet. So her influence is big, and it'll continue to be big. The one thing we kind of haven't seen is her influence on the Titans, because they haven't gotten probably close enough to her. We've seen her influence on Titan beings, right? I mean, tons of the Titan-esque, well, the Earthen are Titan beings too, but tons of the Titans themselves and Titan beings that have been sent down have been influenced already by Azeroth. So what happens next? Damn, this is so good. It is good. It is good. I like where the lore is going. And we'll see if Azeroth has been able to basically assemble an army big enough and bad enough and strong enough to defeat her impending doom.
Written and cleaned by Titan servants. They were seen
Deep inside
overtly
Azeroth,
as
that's right.
disposable labor, not really beings with agency. By now, of course, in the story, these Earthen have got first-hand evidence of what it's like to not drink the Titan Kool-Aid. That's been a major plot in the War Within. And of course, this tension could spark war on Northrend. Just take a look at Northrend and remember, you have the Iron Dwarves, you have the Frostborn, you even have the Iron Vrykul. Northrend is full of Titan constructs, and breaking down their old mythoses is something we're exploring right now. Not all of them are loyal to the Titans, some of them are even primed to fight each other. Take as an example the Iron Dwarves and the Frost Giants, who are, as we speak, at war. But let's move from these Earthen.
I love the Frost Giant quest lines. I hope we get more of those when we go back to Northrend. Those were cool.
Take it
Remember
up
riding the back of the giant Frost Giant? It was a good time.
step and talk to their manager, their bosses, the Titan Keepers. Part 1 was the Earthen.
So
Part
the Titan Keepers were another one that was influenced. I mean, we know about, Tyr's hand and all that stuff, and Tyr saving humanity and all that. They're kind of fall away from the protocol that they were created to do. Is interesting because it goes against what the Titans kind of made them for, and more towards what Azeroth wants them to do. So again, Azeroth's influence even impacting directly made Titan creations.
2 is the Keepers. Here's one of them. He's called Tyr, and he is an absolute lad. He's was
badass.
brave, he was questioning, and by the end, he nobly sacrificed himself. One of the real legends of the Warcraft mythos, very, very important to the Vrykul and even to humanity. He was also responsible for much of the dragon stuff that Iridikron hated. He was just, doing the stuff that his side was doing. But from what we can piece together, it's fair to assume that he will side with mortals. That's because in
right.
Dragonflight, we actually restored his body. We then basically put a memory disk into his body, and basically, he's kind of back now. And at the end of his Dragonflight story, he essentially said the world has changed and he needs to observe it, to take a look, actually get a grip with the place. Of course, then in the War Within, we then found the secret recordings of one of Tyr's old allies, the Titan Keeper Arcadis. And they're really odd recordings, right? Because at first, they are the reports of a loyal Titan servant. But by the end of the reports, he's sharing secrets. And he even says in the reports that he knows he shouldn't share these secrets, yet he feels compelled to, and therefore he's going to.
Interesting. He feels compelled, right? What the hell is compelling him? What's influencing him? Again, it's Azeroth herself. Being able to influence Titan creations to kind of either do her bidding or convincing them to join her side. You can make it, decide in your head how she's doing it, but she's clearly doing it. She's recruiting people to help her constantly.
That's already suspicious, but what makes it more suspicious is that they are not pleasant secrets. We learn how the Titan machinery of Azeroth is designed to turn her into a Titan, how they built a prison-like thing called the World Core around her, and how she even tried to fight back. And much, much more, let's just say, compromising information. And it's also top secret information. It's the kind of information that Tyr actually would not have known about. So, should the newly restored Tyr, once he's, taken a look at the place, then find the secret messages of his old ally, which by now are not a secret because we've literally looked at them, well, then he'll get a full picture of the Titan's plan. The whole plan he was basically a cog in. And I think that will actually make his turn against the Titans all but assured by the end. But that does actually beg another question. What of the other keepers? There are loads of them. In total, 6 keepers are alive. Tyr is one of them, Odin is another, and the other 4 live in Northrend. They are...
Odin's a bitch. He probably won't be able to be converted because he's such a baby back bitch for the Titans. Just doing their bidding all the time. I mean, he's got a fiery beard, but he's basically letting Aman'Thul sit on that beard constantly. So I don't think we'll be able to... I think we're going to end up fighting him. I'm pretty sure Odin will be some kind of end raid boss and we'll end up killing him.
Freya, Hodir, Mimiron, and Thorim. And where today's video gets more interesting than I reckoned is how they're actually set for conflict.
The keepers
Long
throw
ago,
down.
when Tyr sacrificed himself, he was doing so to thwart an old god plan that, by the time he acted, Freya, Hodir, Mimiron, and Thorim had all fallen to. Now, Tyr did that alongside Arcadis. Yeah, basically those guys are tight. So, when Tyr meets those keepers in The Last Titan, and then recounts the secret logs of his ally Arcadis, I think those keepers would be primed to actually trust him. He's actually got a good track record of being right and acting nobly. So that's the Northrend keepers covered, but then obviously there is Odin. I think we know by now that Odin will fully be on Team Aman'Thul, Team Titan. He's been batting for the Titans version of history long after they left Azeroth. We found loads of documents about that in Ulduar. As an example, take a look at this. This is The Old Gods and the Ordering of Azeroth. It is a old lore book, and it's essentially pure Odin-driven propaganda about Aman'Thul being top dog.
Of course.
Leaves a lot of things that matter out. But of course, The War Within is telling us that these things are not what they seem. And while that set of 4 Northrend keepers I think will have a bias towards Tyr, well, not completely. As an example,
By the way, the whole thing of Tyr's ascension and everything also lends credence to something that a lot of people think might be happening soon, and that's more people being able to be paladins. The whole new Tyr's Hand revival and all that, Knights of the Silver Hand, everything coming back. I do think we're going to see more classes become paladins, especially with the influence of the light becoming stronger and stronger as we prepare ourselves to fight off the void. Now, in the end, will that be good? Could that lead us into something beyond the Last Titan? We know all about the Light Emperor on the other side of the world and all that stuff going down. The light is going to play a big role going forward. Tyr is, something to do with that, with his influence with paladins and everything else. We'll see. We'll see. Night Elf Paladins, who knows? A bunch of other things, a bunch of other classes getting Paladins. We'll see. Void Elf Paladins, oh, that sounds like blasphemy, honestly. We'll see. We'll see. Undead Paladins, that would be a cool one. Burning of the light while they're using it.
Another one of the keepers, Hodir, who was one of the Northrend 4, he actually pledged himself personally to Odin after the Valjar, who are basically Odin's kind of like Valhalla Viking Vrykul dudes, saved him from the Burning Legion. So if that was to be the case, then 2 of our keepers are essentially guaranteed as Team Titan. Looking around the others, well, Thorim, if we believe the Bronzebeard's account from exploring Azeroth, has basically lost his mind. He could be an easy mark, not exactly sure. Which basically means once we do the final maths, you have Tyr and Arcadis on one side, you have Odin and Hodir on the other side, you have Thorim a little bit lost to madness, Ra, of course, is dead, and then there is Mimiron. Perhaps he'll just be too busy tinkering to care, so let's just call him a wild card. And that leaves only
Mimiron joining our side would kind of be important because it would lend credence again to the ridiculous thing of Tinkers becoming a playable class. I know I bring it up all the time because I still think there's a chance that in the Midnight expansion or maybe beyond, that's what happens if we get the Tinkers as a playable class. I just think they're so requested. I think we could be getting it. And Mimiron clearly being like the Tinker or Overlord or whatever, he could be the reason we get it if he joins our side with Tyr.
Freya. Freya, I think, will almost certainly be on our side because
we took Mimiron's head. He can't do shit.
The biggest rift in this brewing civil war. When I say big, I mean the big one. This is the rift within the Titan pantheon. Part 1 was the lowliest Titan servant. Part 2 was their keepers, their lieutenants in Azeroth. Part 3, then, is the Titans themselves. In the Dragonflight expansion, we learned that the Titan Aenar planted a special world tree that was given to her by Elune, but that Aman'Thul cruelly destroyed it, and when he did, she was devastated. Now that is a clear point of friction within the Titan Pantheon, and I think it's rather clear there is something up with Aenar. She is the only Titan soul to have escaped the Legion. Remember how in the Antorus raid we had to save the other Titan souls from, basically a fun little torture chamber they were in, but we actually found Aenar hiding out on a world called Elunaria. Obviously, there's a connection with Elune.
Right.
She had a deep personal relationship with Elune herself, and if you take a look back at...
This is when we learned, a lot about Elune and Aenar playing a big role. Clearly, they were probably scissoring each other this entire time, and that's why they love each other so much now. But all jokes aside, there is a big relationship between the two of them, and there's always these references to roots, right? Roots leading to maybe corruption, roots leading to change. The gods refer to roots, deeper its roots will go. ushering in our coming. That was an Azoth line. And one thing that was left behind when Aman'Thul ripped out the World Tree was the roots. We already know that. Rootlands expansion, all this stuff. Interestingly enough, we still think that ANR is in love with the thought of the World Tree and the roots and everything else. Even her model has roots wrapped around the wrist. Okay, and roots, oftentimes, you could think of it maybe as a corruption thing, or you can think of it as a change thing. But I think the roots of Azeroth and everything else are all symbolism for the fact that ANR basically is almost like the seed of corruption in the Titan pantheon. She is rooted in her love for Azeroth, her love for Elune and everything else, and all of it could lead into her basically, switching sides, deciding not to side with Aman'Thul anymore. And the roots of that decision have already been laid.
We believe that Elune was a child of Azeroth's World Soul. That may sound strange, but in the depths of the World Soul saga, this stuff is really kind of becoming literal, because these big unknowable things are, well, becoming forces within the world. So, ANR, through Elune, seems to have known the truth of the World Soul maybe more than Aman'Thul let on. And of course, she was very close to Elune. So close, in fact, that she was able to hide out on Elunaria. If you string that all together, it's clear then that what ANR wants is basically what's best for the World Soul. I mean, she's got a deep personal relationship with a being we believe to be a child of the World Soul, Elune, and that's based off the Tauren myths. That means she will feel conflicted. Remember, Aman'Thul ripped out that world tree and he boomed, "This is not order," because he saw that world tree that ANR probably just put there to help heal the world. He saw that as, well, danger. It's the forces of life. It's a weed, a root somehow able to crack a footpath, crack a road, and that has no place in his plan. That, then, is a very, very clear battle line. So let me bring this all together into a legendary place, and that place is Ulduar.
We'll get another Ulduar raid for sure.
That a Titan highway once divided Azeroth north to south, but the highway was destroyed in the Sundering. Of course, you can actually follow it north to Wormrest, that's present on Northrend, and then when you keep following it, you go into the Storm Peaks, and finally it brings you to this place, Ulduar. This was the seat of Titan power on Azeroth. It's where the Keepers ruled over the whole world, and since those most ancient times, it's been used as a prison and in a way is a little bit mothballed. For example, a whole wing of Ulduar was shot up into the sky whenever Odin rage quit. It's a story for another day, but yes, the whole Halls of Valor, that used to be a wing of Ulduar.
The animation was funny.
Important. It still holds power, and it's likely one of the reasons why we're going back to Northrend. Because when Aman'Thul returns to, as Heridikron told us, reclaim what he believes is his, he will return to his seat of power.
Makes
That
sense.
is Ulduar. That is Northrend. And when he does, we can expect that the forges will...
I would think then the site of the final battle of the last Titan is going to be in Ulduar. We'll probably have a return to Ulduar raid, with all new bosses completely redone, but Ulduar most likely be the scene of the final raid of the expansion, unless the story takes some kind of Xal'atath void turn at the end that we weren't expecting. But as of right now, I would think the final boss fight against Aman'Thul will happen at the very peak of Ulduar.
Light, and the legions of Titanforge will flood Azeroth. Of course, if Xal'atath gets her way, the Void will be on top, so the Titans will be fighting whatever they manage to spawn from the Sunwell at the end of the Midnight expansion.
Right.
But once everything's settled and that immediate threat is dealt with, we'll all just be standing there looking at each other, knowing that, well, the Titans have plans for our home. That means he'll be facing off against us, a group who, essentially, are the children of Azeroth. And even within his own pantheon, if we're to believe the Tauren myth, Elune is also a child of Azeroth.
I wonder, though, if we defeat the Void maybe at the beginning of the last Titan or the end of Midnight, how we figure out the plan of the Titans, how we actually because we know it, and we're slowly learning it as well through these discs, these Titan disc fragments throughout the War Within expansion. But how do we flip on Aman'Thul? That's the question. What is the deciding factors for us to say, actually, this guy doesn't have our best interest in mind. He's going to mess us up. So we got to do something about it. That flip is probably going to happen between Midnight into the Last Titan or early in the Last Titan expansion.
Elune that has a connection with Aenar, someone in Amenthul's pantheon. That means that it's not just us versus the Titans. No, there will be Titans fighting Titans. And when all this happens, we will step up, we'll return to Ulduar, and I suspect we will do what we do best. Do a big raid
Get some
boss
loot.
in some sort of giant epic fashion. Perhaps Sargeras will return, perhaps Illidan will return, but what it will do
I think they will.
is close a huge loop. A loop opened by Algalon back in Wrath of the Lich King. Basically, that threat from the Titans will finally, way over a decade later, almost 2 decades later, be paid off. And we can only speculate as to what Azeroth will look like after that. If I was Blizzard, I would probably say it's time for a world revamp. But if you want to know more about what Northrend will look like in The Last Titan, and trust me, there's way more than just the A-plot, check out this video next. It's the first in this series. It's about the return of the Scourge, because the Scourge are back in a major way.
They sure are.
Keep an eye on the channel. We'll have a full zone-by-zone deep dive in Northrend very soon.
Yeah, the Scourge, obviously, you know, running around, there must always be a Lich King. Well, we have no more Helm of Domination. It's just a crown, the tiara of fucking wills. I hate that thing. I can't believe they turned the Helm of Domination into that. We'll see what happens with the Scourge. But he hinted at some really interesting stuff there at the very end of this video. And it really gets into a full Azeroth revamp. Who knows how much this final battle against the Void, or the final battle against the Titans, will affect the planet, right? Are we going to completely destroy the planet when the world soul is freed, when Azeroth is freed? What does that mean for the future of the game and everything else going forward? Is it time for a full world revamp, WoW 2, all that shit? Who knows? But we do know that the end, or the closing of the current WoW lore, happens in The Last Titan. Beyond that, there is nothing left as of right now. We'll see how it all plays out. I'm excited for The Last Titan, excited to see what happens with the Titans and where the lore is going. Nice video here from Bellular.